Hello and welcome to this episode of Talking to Introverts with myself, Sami Blackford, and my co-host I will let her speak in a moment and introduce herself. But before I do that, I will introduce myself. I am a brand and marketing coach and I support introverted women in business to share their business in a way that feels good for them. So none of this flogging ourselves on social media. Thank you very much. Don't want any of that. We can do it in a much more gentle and introvert friendly way without burning ourselves out. So yes, my co-host is drumroll.
Sitting here very quietly. Hi there, I'm Denise Oliver, and my business is called Diva Empowerment, and I'm all about women finding their empowerment. And my specialist interest is after grief and loss. So whether that's the grief and loss following the loss of the death of a loved one, a pet, because they can really take big chunks of our heart with them, or whether it's been circumstances, and there's many circumstances, relationships, businesses, financial, you name it. We can experience the same emotions, same thoughts, feelings, sensations in our body that are actually grief related. Sometimes it's that we think we're coping and that's fine, but these traumas that we experience in life can build if we don't do something about them. As I work with introverted women, being one, I have techniques where you don't even have to speak if you don't want to, or you can be very quiet and we just see what unfolds in the treatment. I love what I do. I love it.
And as ever, contact details and where you can find out more information about Denise's work and my work and how to get in touch if you feel called to will be in the notes below this podcast episode. So today, I feel as we have mentioned them throughout probably every episode, our partners, we will look at relationships and communication between extroverts and introverts. Because Denise, I know you've said that your husband is a lot more extroverted than you are, and my partner is a lot more extroverted than I am. And it can lead to some interesting communication issues, shall we say, um, at times. So, Denise, kick us off.
Yeah, what is it you want me to say here? No, I think I'm just going to go back now, as I often do when we're talking about introverts, to the book. The book that kicked all this off for me was Quiet by Susan Cain. And it's the differences between introverts and extroverts that she identified. I think it took her 10 years to do this research. So it's research based. It's not just, I mean, if she had observed it all, great. She did a great job at doing that. And she has looked at some of the quite minimal work that had been done at looking at the differences between introverts and extroverts. And the thing is, we can be an extrovert introvert and we can be an introvert extrovert. So there's combinations of all of this. And we are neither one thing nor the other, really. We just have tendencies that identify us as being more introvert or more extrovert. So when I discovered this, my tendency to need time to be on time with myself, time to be on my own, was something my husband just didn't like at all. He thought I was avoiding him. It's just like I had got to a point with 3 kids and a husband and juggling everything that I just recognized that there were times in the day that I had to not speak to someone. Otherwise, I was so drained, so worn out. On the other hand, that doesn't work for an extrovert. Extroverts need other people. They really do. And it was, I very often have suggested to my husband that doing courses, going off, to play golf is a really great idea because he gets to see other people. And he comes back feeling recharged, and I've had my space, and I can then spend time listening to him. As an extrovert, he speaks to think. So it all comes tumbling out of him. And sometimes when we've been sat together, I'm not quite sure what he's off to do next because I've heard both sides of the story and everything in between. And I'm a bit like, okay, so what is he going to do? Do you find this with your partner?
Oh my goodness. As you were saying that, I was like, oh, yes, this is what happens. So, my partner recently was going over to Manchester. So he's got a friend who he's known since like he was knee-high to a grasshopper. Um, and was going over to see him Friday night. And like when he first talked about it, he was going to stay over. And then the next time he talked about it, he wasn't staying over. And then the next time he talked about it, he was staying over. And then on Saturday, we went for a walk and I was asking him how his night was and everything. And he hadn't stayed over. I'm like, what? I don't, I can't keep up with what you're doing. And I realized like he does that quite a lot. And it's only as you've been saying that, it's like, oh yeah, no, he's talking it out to kind of work it out himself. Whereas I'm like, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing it, and this is when we're doing it, and it's not going to change
Yeah,
because I have done the whole thinking out of the best way to approach this or whatever. Um, and so when I say this is the thing, this is the thing. Like I've gone down in my mind, I've gone down every possible avenue of how this could play out, and this is how we're doing it.
but you haven't gone to you haven't done like an extrovert does and gone through every scenario out loud.
No, I have in my head. I just haven't talked about it.
Yeah, sometimes my husband will look at me, he's talking away, and then he stops and he looks at me and he's waiting for me to fill in the bit that he can't work out. And I'm looking at him thinking, I'm not quite sure where you're up to right now. Do you realize how convoluted everything you've just been saying actually is? And I'm looking at him and he's looking at me, and I'm just like, what is it you want me to say? Because I'm not with you right now. I don't know where you've gone. Um, I do occasionally have times where I do think out loud, but by the time I've got to the end of what I'm saying, I know whether it's I'm going to do this or I'm not. I don't need to keep repeating it.
Mm,
So yeah, we're very different like that. I mean, he can spend time on his own, but there's always a noise. There's always music playing. If he's not playing it out loud, he's got headphones in. We sit down to watch TV and he's watching the TV and he's watching something on his iPad and he's talking to me at the same time. And my head's spinning just watching him like, whoa, that is just too much. That is overwhelmed. And I will sit and knit. I love to knit. It's very calming for me to knit. And, the telly's on, but I can only watch so much of that.
mm,
It's just like too much noise. And at one time, I always wondered how people could do so much noise. And now because I understand the introvert extrovert thing, it's
mm.
like, oh, it's not just people and talking, it can actually be noise as well. Yeah, so it's an interesting one. He's like, I'm just going into my room. He has his own study because he's been self-employed for years, and I think, oh, that's nice. And I wander around to find him because I've been yelling him for ages to come and get his tea or whatever, and he can't hear me because the headphones are so loud. It's like, oh, so you're not like quietly meditating or anything. He does yoga and meditation. I don't know how he meditates. I don't know how he does it because he needs noise. He
Mm.
really needs it. So it's like, yeah, he's one of those people that say he was, I mean, it's rare, but say he was in the front garden, possibly gardening, probably not, or emptying his car of the golf clubs. Even a glimpse of a neighbour and he's there. And, he has to go and see how they are. And have a little chat and
Yeah.
whatever. I'm more likely, this is a terrible thing to admit, to see my neighbour and think, ooh, how do I avoid her?
Well, I'm glad you admitted that because I was thinking that as you were saying it. I was like, oh
I
no.
know. It's a terrible thing to admit, but it's that whole thing. If I'm in the front garden, if I'm gardening, I like to be on my own.
Mm,
I love it. I love the quietness. I love to wait for the birds, the robins come. I love all of that. Um, so yeah, there are going to be neighbours, aren't they? I don't live in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, if it looks like they're heading somewhere, I'll wave. I'll turn my back on them. I do occasionally, very occasionally, stop and speak because
yeah.
my neighbours, they're very elderly now. They're much older than I am. We've been here about 20 years, and they seemed old then. So they are very old now, and it's like I do have concerns about their health
Mm,
and their well-being, and so I will just check in with them, and just find out what's going on for them. I probably spoke more to my neighbours during COVID, which sounds bizarre because we weren't supposed to be doing that. But we'd go outside and they'd sit on their garden walls and we'd talk across the road because there was no one coming or going.
mm.
Well, there were dog walkers, but they tended at that point to walk down the middle of the road, which was interesting. And so we'd get out there and have a quick chat and make sure everyone was okay. So, yeah.
Yes, going back to what you're saying about when you're gardening, you're gardening. So when I'm on the allotment, it's like I hardly ever see anybody while I'm there because it's not one of these busy council allotment sites. It's a privately owned social enterprise one. And so there's not many plots that are actually in use at the moment. And so I never, well, very rarely see anybody. And if I do, it's like down the other end of the field, and you kind of like give a bit of a nod if you catch their eye, sort of thing. Um, but sometimes there's like dog walkers and things that go past because it's a farmer's field, and I do this thing where I'm like, oh, I see them coming. Let's go down to the other part of the allotment, part of the plot. Like, I don't need to be with them. I don't need to talk to them. This is my space. And but it's interesting. There's one guy that walks a little dog, and I couldn't tell you what breed it is. I'm really not good with breeds, but a little thing. There's some sort of terrier in it, I would say. And the dog always comes into the plot because we don't have gates on it. Um, and comes in and has a chat. And if she's aware that there's somebody there, she's like, "Oh, exciting person." So I'll talk to the dog, Bella. No idea what the guy's name is. But the dog is called Bella. And I have a right good chat with Bella, and then send her back off to whatever his name is, and like literally, yeah, you're okay, and that's all the guy gets. It's like I don't need a chat with you. I'll just chat to the dog, and then you can be on your way.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Susan Kane, I've watched her on YouTube, and she says that um, she believes that we choose the opposite of what we're not. So an introvert will choose someone who's more extrovert, and vice versa, not not knowing that that's what they're doing. It
Mm,
is what happens. And she's very introverted, her husband less so. And she said that, when they go to events, he's the chatty one who's working the room, and she's the one who like dives into the kitchen to help out type of thing. Now I've always done that, and I
mm,
didn't understand why I would do that. Give me a job to do. I'm happy to do this. I don't want to be stuck in a crowd of people. I just don't. Once I recognized that's what I did, I then worked towards being less hiding in the corner type thing, less of a wallflower. And we've talked about small talk and chit chat. And I've like sort of worked a room, but not quite, and found someone that basically I can stand to one side with and just ask questions of. So, oh, what's going on with you? How are your kids? And all of that sort of thing. I've got very few close friends that I enter into deep, meaningful conversations with. Very few.
mm,
Um, because it can seem, I think, for people who who are more on the extrovert side of things, who have that lighter, bubblier, I want to know a bit of everything type of way about them. A deep, meaningful conversation is actually quite difficult for them.
Mm.
It's dead easy for me. So I have to gauge the person who wants the deep, meaningful conversation. And deep and meaningful often comes down to the things that they don't tell anyone else. If there's one phrase I've heard from people who don't know me very well, they're like, I don't know why I'm telling you this. Why am I telling you this? It's like, I don't know. But
Mm.
that's what I get a lot of the time. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, and actually when you're saying about like you want the deep and meaningful conversation and all that kind of stuff, it just brought this one like I'm totally like that. And it brought this one example to my mind. So my partner lives on a housing estate and he's lived there for a number of years, 10, 20 years, something like that. And so he knows a lot of the neighbors and all of that kind of stuff. And there's this like they have their group where WhatsApp chat and all of that kind of stuff. So it's a very like community type thing, which is lovely. And also for me, like coming into this, it's like, oh, that's a lot of people. Um, and so we went round for drinks at one of his neighbours' houses. So there was me and him, this couple who lived there, and then another couple who were other neighbours. And one of them had not long had is it a cochlear implant because he was deaf. And he was like, but he talked really well, but he'd said like he'd been deaf like all his life, sort of. So then I'm like, I have so many questions I want to ask you right now, but I've only just met you like 20 minutes ago. I don't think I can ask them just yet.
I know you want to dive in there, don't you? You
I
really want to
know.
sift through everything. Oh, I'm the same. There was a time in my life I put that down to having trained as a nurse.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it is part of partly being an introvert, but I just love to talk to people about on a very not on a superficial or like victim based conversation, more of a so what happened next? So how did you find that out?
Mm,
And then what? And so who said that to you? And I'm like getting really digging deep. And unless the person is ready for that sort of conversation, it can be a little
mm.
bit like we're a bit like, oh, room full of people. It's a bit like, who's this woman asking me these questions? I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, actually thinking about it. So when I like years ago doing online dating, which is a whole other story in itself. Um,
Ever
but
been
I,
there?
oh, Denise, you haven't lived.
I
Um,
know. I know.
but like, because I don't really watch TV, so I'm not like don't want to talk about the latest Netflix series or whatever, um, stuff like that. I want to know about the person, and like I ask questions and like, oh, so what's this and what's that, and like how do you feel about this and that and the other. And like I have had people who have said, "Wow, you ask a lot of questions." And I didn't understand it at the time because it was like a few years ago. But now, like you saying that, explain like how people have reacted to you. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it is. Like they're just not in that frame of mind where they have those sorts of conversations. And like they'd ask me, so what are you watching lately, or something similar. I'm like, nope,
I know.
I
Yeah.
got nothing.
And they're looking at you like, oh my God, she's so weird. She can't make conversation. Yeah, was it? What do we do? What do you mean you haven't seen X, Y, Z? What do you mean? What do you mean? But yeah, anything that is health related, I'm on it.
Mm,
I really am. Um, yeah, as I say, I used to think that was because I was a nurse, but actually, I think it's got more of that more introvert empathy to it. I'm
mm,
going to put it that way. We can see that someone probably needs, I guess we get a sense that someone probably needs to offload something, and we're a really good person to do that with.
yeah.
It's what makes us the coaches that we are. We're good listeners. It's what we do. And it doesn't mean we can't talk. We're doing it now.
Mm.
So
The-
can I just go to the world of online dating? Because I've never done it and I'm not likely to. Um, So how as an introvert does it work for you? We're talking relationships here and
Mm.
communication. I don't even know what you do. So, but don't go into the nitty gritty of how it works. It's that whole thing of, can you ask questions of someone, or is it literally done on a photograph and the information they give?
So the initial it's a bit like shopping on Amazon. So you look at the picture and you read the description.
Have they
So
got a
that
5-star rating?
Yeah, I have I have joked in the past that it's like I think there should be some sort of like rating system where you can give like feedback and stuff. Um, but essentially its first impressions is a visual. And there's no
Yeah,
getting away from that, the platform it's on, the
yeah,
way it's set up, people go off the photo. Um, and then, if they give some description, then there's that to go off as well. Whereas I'm like, if they don't give any like description whatsoever, I'm like, no, you're not my person because I need some information. Um, and then there are some platforms that are less introvert friendly, let's put it that way. And then there was one that I found where women have to do the first uh, communication. Like men cannot approach the woman. The woman has to do the first message. You can do the whole like swipe. I can't remember which way it is. I think it's swipe right if you like them, swipe left if you don't. And if you match, then that's a way for the guy to kind of make a move. But to start a conversation, the woman has to send the first message. And that was, although it doesn't seem like an introvert friendly thing because we have to make the first move, it actually is because you're not getting overloaded with like bombarded with messages that are kind of from the dodgy ones. Um, because you get all sorts of messages on the other platforms, or that has been my experience. And like I know from other women, talking to other women who have used online dating, that has been their experience as well. Um, and then like there's various ways that you can contact once you're in contact together. There's various ways that you can keep that going. So you can use just text message, you can use voice notes, you can do like FaceTime calls and stuff like that. Um, so you can use it in a way that is more comfortable for you because it's, meeting new people, starting new relationships is can be an uncomfortable sort of process to go through. But you can use it in ways that are more comfortable for the introvert.
yeah. I mean, I guess back in the day, for me, it was the people you worked with. It was like the local bars that we went
Mm,
to, pubs usually, or clubs. It's just a whole new world. It's a
mm,
crazy whole new world as far as I'm concerned. And it must have gone berserk during COVID,
mm,
because you weren't getting out to meet anyone, were you? And we are a creature that requires someone else in our world. It's a fact. It's what we have to do. Very few of us can be completely 100% solitary all our lives. We just don't develop our brain function well enough. We are society based, no matter where that is or what that looks like. So yeah, I just can't. I can't imagine what it must be like as an introvert to do online
mm.
dating.
I
Except,
think,
in some ways, I do get it, because you're not initially having to make small talk, are you?
yeah. And you don't have to
Yeah,
do that, like being out at the bar or at events or whatever, and like, that initial kind of having to make contact with somebody, which I was never good at,
no,
ever. Um, so it does take that away from it. I think when I was saying like it's a bit like shopping on Amazon, there are people who take that like too far. They think like, as soon as, you've both swiped right and it's been a match, oh, that's it. Like that's like I'm done. We're getting married like next month. Um, and I
oh, that's a bit
think
overwhelming, isn't it? Like, oh, really? No, I don't
and I
think
think
so.
I think some people do forget, and I'm not saying whether this is an introvert or an extrovert thing, do you forget that there's still the building that has to go on? You still have to meet, and whether you get on or not, or like there was one guy that I was messaging. I remember, and he like on message it was great. Like we, getting on really well, and then we had a chat on the phone, and it just did not work. Like it just fell flat. It's like this is not a good match. Um, so there's still it might work on the app, it might work in writing, but in the real world, it's very different sometimes.
So does your partner understand the introvert extrovert thing?
I think he's learning more of it through me talking about it. Um, I don't think it had really been in his awareness, like it wasn't anything that he'd thought about. His wife, his previous wife, um, was very quiet, and now he's like, oh, I know, I see that she was an introvert because she was the one, like, she didn't like going to big parties. She didn't like because there's one thing, we'll be out for a drive, and he's like, oh, do you want to go visiting on the way home? I'm like, nope, no, I don't. I have not had time to prepare for this. I do not.
Yeah.
Um, and she'd be like that, and she'd enjoy reading and stuff. And he's like, now I get that she was an introvert. Like it wasn't that she didn't like these people, it's just that she didn't want to be around people all the time. Um, and I think like you were saying earlier about we tend to find someone who's the opposite. I think he likes to have somebody who listens, like with the whole talking through what, working out what's in his brain, like talking it out and all of that kind of stuff. I think he likes that. He finds that quite beneficial. What annoys me is that when I'm talking, he tries to finish my sentences all the time. I'm like, just listen, let me finish my sentence. And I've started doing that now. It's like when he jumps in and it's like, well, if you let me finish my story, you will find out.
But that's the thing with an extrovert, though, is that they think out loud,
Mm.
and he's only thinking. And that's what I've had to train myself with my husband. He's only thinking out loud. So as he's talking, I carry on now, which is really annoying for him. And it's just like, no, I was speaking, and I'm going to carry on speaking.
Mm.
So yeah, get a bit more bolshy as you get older.
I know.
There was something else popped in my head and it's gone again. I can't remember now. Mm, I've forgotten.
I
Yeah,
think I think Rich is as well also that person where you were saying before, like if we go anywhere, he's the one that'll go off and make the connections and talk to people, and I can just it's interesting, like if the small example, but if we go in a shop and the shop owner's there and he will start the conversation, like he'll be like the shop owner only has to say hello and like Rich is in there, like full on conversation. And then I'm like, oh, I can just have a little wander around and see what I'm seeing and all of that kind of stuff. And just like gives me the space then to do what I want to do or approach that environment, that circumstance in the way that works for me. Because he's off doing, he's found somebody to talk to. He's happy.
yeah. I was just thinking about a time we were in Istanbul in Turkey, which is stunning. Everyone, Istanbul is one of my favorite capitals. It's amazing, and around the market areas, there'd be kids with all this stuff they were trying to sell, and they were like no more than 10 at the most, just loads of them, and they'd come up to you and they show you stuff, real fake perfume, real fake watch, real fake. It was hilarious. But what I recognized was that if I said no, just no, and that was it, they moved on. But people
Mm.
would go, oh, hello, how are you? And that was it. He was swarmed. I just got to the point where I'm like, you are not going to learn, are you?
But also the point where like you're on your own.
Absolutely. It's like, oh, I'm heading in this shop and come out with a package. You sort yourself out. I'm buying, but not real fake anything. I'll go and buy something nice. Thank you, please. And he was just like, why can't you say no? But then he'd say to me, well, that's rude. It's not. They know that I don't want anything from them. But you got absolutely like jumped on. Did you buy anything? He's like, no, I was never going to buy anything. Oh, well, if you're going to talk to them, they think you're going to buy.
Yeah.
Hilarious. That was one of the funniest things I've ever witnessed. I don't know where they all came from. He just said hello to one of them. There was 10 of them round him. And he's like, oh, trying to extricate himself. Anyhow, that was then. Yeah, it's funny. I
Do you
recognise.
think he's learned that yet, though?
Oh God, no, no. He can't. He can't use one word when he can talk. So why not use 10?
Yeah.
I don't know. Also know whether it's partly he's half Maltese. His mother's Maltese, and go to stay at his mum's house, and she literally does not stop talking.
Mm.
Literally does not stop talking. She talks to herself. And that's not an age. She's 94, I think, this year, 93, 94. Amazing woman for her age. Absolutely incredible. Only just getting to that stage now where she's a bit unsure about getting a bus to go into London and go shopping at Selfridges. 94, like blimey. But there is like, Europe, we sort of Italians and Spanish, very expressive and loud all the time. Well, Malta's a lot like that. And I just think they're very extrovert in their behaviour. So he has that. And part of it is learned behaviour. Part of it is intrinsically, he's extrovert. Or not total extrovert, but he's a lot more extrovert than I am. And so when him and his mum are there together, even he finds that she speaks too much. And I'm like, mate, you want to be me. Trying to deal with both of you. And then they end up, because neither of them is listening to the other one, just yelling at each other. It's like, oh my God, this is like headache inducing now. I'll go and have a lie down. And then his mum's like, are you all right? What can I get you? What do you want? You want this, you want that, you want the other. No, I just want to be on my own, thank you. But if you're not like that, I do get how it can be difficult to understand the need that an introvert has within a relationship to actually spend time on their own and not be with the other person 24/7. You just don't. It's the need for the introvert is that aloneness recharges the battery.
Yeah.
It's like trying to drive your car and fill it up at the same time. You can't do that. The car has to be stopped. I often think I'm more like an electric car. It's a good 40 minutes. You can't just, pump a bit of fuel in and we're done. No. I'm more an electric car. I need a good 40 minutes before I'm recharged.
Yeah, I think that's like Rich has learnt that about me. So we went away last week or the week before, whenever it was. And it was like 4 days, like solid each other's company. Um, and and then because we don't live together, and then when we got back, he's like, "So shall I give you a day or two then?" Like, I appreciate that, thank you.
Well, that's kind, isn't it? You've taught him well.
It's like, "Do you need a break from me now?" Like, that would be good.
Yeah, and
I mean, not in any like we weren't like arguing. It
yeah,
was a very nice 4 days, but that amount of time with the same person. And like, because it's different to, if you were living together, because you'd be off going to work or going out or whatever. But, being away, you don't know anybody else. So, literally just got each other. Yeah, it's a lot.
yeah. Do you know what? There are times when, like, I'm driving somewhere, and I'm very grateful for the invention of sat nav when you don't know where you're going. But there are times when I'm like, please stop talking. Oh, really? You have to speak again? Or what I do love is when it's like you're going along a motorway and it's like, I can't remember how they put it now, drive for 66 miles. It's
I
like,
know.
great.
But do you ever get that thing? Because I've had that going down to London to visit my friends, and gets you on the M1 and you like just drive for however many miles, 60, 70 miles. I'm like, okay then. And then like when you need to do something like 60 or 70 miles later and she speaks, you're like, oh my God, like, give you a heart attack. Like, where did you
Yeah.
come
Oh
from?
my God, where did she come from? All the time. Yeah, all the time. It's just so funny. I don't have the radio on. I don't listen to stories. My daughter has an introvert side to her, but she's way more extrovert. She's more like, she's got more of the Maltese in her. And, it's when she listens to audiobooks when she does long distance driving.
Mm.
Like, no, I want my quiet. Thank you. I quite like my own thoughts. They're fine. And even then, I can really quiet them down. So I literally do drive like it's a meditation.
Mm.
My eyes are open. I don't close my eyes. I'm not sat cross-legged. And so, yeah, it's good. It's just who we are, isn't it?
Mm.
And I think it's that in a relationship, if there's a lack of understanding or an unwillingness to understand the other person's position with this, that's
Mm.
when there can be issues. I think talking about what it's like to be an introvert in a relationship, hopefully this opens people's eyes to the
Mm.
fact that if you're with someone who's way more introverted, doesn't mean they don't like you when they need time on their own. They need time on their own. It's as
Mm.
simple as that. And that time alone is a real kindness if you're willing to step away from them and let them recharge their batteries in whatever way they need. When
Yeah.
a mum of three kids, you couldn't even go to the loo on your own. Oh, exhausting or what? Horrible. But there you go. Never got time on my own then. Oof.
Yeah. I don't have that experience,
Well
having
done.
not had children. Um, but before I met Rich, like a year before, I was dating this other guy, and like we'd only been dating for a month, let's say, and he got really offended that I didn't want to spend like every spare minute I had that I wasn't working with him. I'm like, oh no, that's like no. Like if we were married, no. Like never mind 1 month of knowing you. And that kind of goes back to the, people see online dating as they've bought the thing and they just, you know, that's it done. And also he was a lot more extroverted as well. And it's interesting what you were saying about again that we choose people who are kind of the opposite of us. And like looking back, it's like, yeah, all of my partners have been way more extroverted than I am. And it's been good in the way that it has helped me because I was also very shy and it's helped to kind of bring me out of myself in that way. Um, and also to recognize that I don't have to be that. I
Yeah.
can still be my quiet self, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I fully understand where my husband's coming from. But thankfully, I have so much more insight into what my inner needs are. And I think that's the thing about an introvert. Our needs are very much focused inside us. And whereas an extrovert, their needs are focused very much outside of them.
Mm,
And it's not a right or a wrong, it's an acknowledgement of how different we are. And that's it.
mm,
It's like acknowledging that men and women look different. It's the same thing. It's not same with animals. Dogs don't look like cats.
mm,
When you think about, I've had to think about dogs. Some dogs are very quiet, don't want to have anything to do with anyone, and other dogs are the rowdiest things on the planet. And same as humans.
mm.
We have these different. I say I can be very rowdy when the situation suits. And then there are times when I have no energy for that. I'm thinking about my friends. I've known them for years, and they're the type that they can have a house full of people for days on end, cooking non-stop, la 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 la, and then everyone goes home and they go to a concert or something. I'm just like,
Oh,
oh, oh, wipe the sweat from my brow. Oof, no. Oh, no. I'm like, they'll say something like that. Oh, did you have a quiet evening? No, no, we went to the Phil Collins concert. What? There's people at a Phil Collins concert. Flipping heck. Oh, no, it was great. Yeah. And then the next day they're all off out doing this, that, and the other. I'm like, oh no, couldn't live your life. Don't want to live your life. Thank you. So fun, 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 fun. Yeah. Anything else on relationships and communication?
Well, I think maybe we hand it over to the listeners now. Tell us your experiences of relating with others, whether introverts or extroverts, whether you are an introvert or an extrovert. We would love to hear what it's like for you.
Yeah.
Are we done?
Are we done? Are we done on this one? I bet
We
there's
do
a lot
seem to have
more.
run out of steam at this moment. I mean, yes, there will be so much more to talk about on relationships and communication. But for now, are we done?
I think we're done. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.